You had said something like 2023 was a runaway train and you were just trying to hold on. Why is that, like, volume just not sustainable?
I'll tell you, for me, I'm never going to say no to anything. I just don't. I think of everything as an opportunity. And so...
But you have to start at some point, right?
I've just recently decided to say no to some stuff. Not a lot of it.
But you've earned the right.
Well, but it's also, I found that, I will tell you that when I look at the pace I was at, I look at it now and I just go, I was like, like, I don't even remember it. Like, and now I'm trying to focus more on being present in everything. And I was thinking showing up was being present.
And you're probably better and fresher when you have a minute to rest too.
It's nice to, get up, work out, sauna, polar plunge, have breakfast, come and do a podcast, as opposed to, like, I was getting on planes from New York. I was doing the Today Show, flying into Miami, doing Drink Champs, getting on another plane, doing Rogan. Like, I was just like, dude, I'll do it all. I'll do everything. I was like, trust me. And I'll show up, I'll be sober, I was fat as I was the fattest I'd ever been because I was compensating with food and booze, but I was present, but it was just so much going on. And I was like, you only get one shot at it. So let's hire everyone and let's burn it at both ends. And if you didn't want to keep up with me, I didn't want you around me.
Tell about this year you're going to be taking off.
I'm taking a year off. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been touring. It's so funny. Back in the day, they'd go, you need to name your tour. I was like, it's called work. This is what I do for a living. I'm a comedian. No comedian takes a year off. When Georgia was born, I worked. She was born on a Tuesday. I got on a plane Wednesday night and flew to Miami. And from that day, that must have been June 9th, I'm guessing, I worked every weekend. I've worked every weekend, almost. I'm probably saying 40 weeks a year, 45 weeks a year. I've done stand-up nonstop, and I've been touring like crazy. And then I signed up to do this next special for Netflix, and I was like, okay, I got another run. Let's do it. Like, it's an opportunity. Not everyone gets offers from Netflix, especially these days. And if they want to do something with me, let's do it. Let's do it. And I signed up for this like crazy schedule again. And then LeAnn was the one that was like, yo, when you shoot your special in July, you're going to stop. You're going to stop and you're going to take time off and recalibrate. And then we'll do another special, but you need to give yourself like a solid year off. So I'm sure it won't be a year. I'm sure it'll be 4 months. I can't imagine that I'm not going to work for a year. I don't know what I'll do. I'll still be doing podcasts, but like I remember the crazy thing about this year was that we were on tour. We were doing an arena tour, and I was doing Two Bears in Austin 4 days every month in Austin. So like I would go out on tour Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fly in Monday, do Two Bears Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, fly out, do shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fly home Monday, Tuesday to be a dad, and then be like, yo, they need you in ... to do something for Legendary. And then you'd be like, done. And so it was just a clip that I just, and it's so funny, so many people told me they were worried about me. And you don't hear that as concern, you hear that as annoyance. I remember Rogan being like, dude, I'm concerned. And I was like, dude, you hang out with cage fighters. What the fuck are you talking about? I remember Tom being like, Tom said to me one time, you don't look good. I was like, oh, and you look great. And he was like, no, Tom's agent said something to me. And I was like, I told him, I said, and I apologized to him. I said, you're not my boy, you're not my wife, you're not my lover, you're not my best friend, you're not even my friend. So get the my way.
Really?
I said, don't ever talk to me like that. You don't know me to talk to me like that. I said, if you want to hang out with me tonight, then get me a drink, get yourself a drink, and shut your mouth. And he was like, wow, I'm sorry. There were a bunch of people texted me. Steve Byrne texted me. I told him to himself. Like, if you texted me and said you were worried about me, I was like, go yourself.
You think there was any truth to what they were saying?
Yeah, 100%. That's the other crazy thing is like, bad stuff happens to dudes who push it too hard. It just does. And I wasn't taking it from anyone.
What about now?
I still don't take it.
I was talking to a comic close to you who said, my biggest worry about him is his death seems imminent at the rate he's going, and I get emotional thinking about it.
Who said it?
Somebody...
Just tell me who said it.
Somebody that...
Tell me who said it. Tell me who said it.
Just
Tell me
somebody,
who said
that
it. Was it Tommy?
No, it was
No,
not.
give me a hint.
Somebody that you've spent a decent amount of time with on the road, though.
I didn't realize I was on that pace. I was definitely on that pace. I was on that pace hardcore. Never drugs, like weed every now and then, but not even really that much weed. But like just boozing it. And, you know, someone slipped up one night and they were like, you know, we used to have to take turns with him because no one could keep up with him. Because, you know, I wouldn't start drinking until like I started the Machine story on stage. But then we'd be partying and we'd go out, have an after party after the show. We'd go to a club after the show and meet up with everyone. I'd buy everyone drinks, come back to the bus. That's my favorite part, is everyone's light a cigar, everyone's still shooting the shit. I didn't realize they were all taking turns with me because no one could keep up. Because then the next morning I'm up at like 7 in the morning ready to work out. But it's, in a weird way, it's a little performative because I didn't want to wake up at 7 in the morning, but I knew that if I wasn't the guy that woke up at 7 in the morning to work out, then all of a sudden I looked like a problem. And so, but yeah, and I think you can't see it when you're in it. You can't see it when you're in it. But when you're outside it, you definitely see it. Like my resting heart rate was one thing that like was really alarming to me, because when I stopped, when we got done Fully Loaded and I kind of got healthy, and by no stretch of means did I say I got sober or anything like that, but I just stopped getting after it. I started focusing on sleep. My resting heart rate got down to like 55. And then I started looking at my previous resting heart rates where it was always 70. And I was like, that's f***ing crazy. That's 20 beats per minute more, and I wasn't doing shit. And I think that's when your body starts to recalibrate and you start to feel better and you start to get out of a couch easier and you can tie your shoes. The littlest things. And for me, it was always my weight and my blood pressure and my heart rate and like, but yeah, that whoever said that was a very accurate assessment of how I lived. I was oblivious to the fact, as most people who die unexpectedly, oblivious to the fact of the path they were on. And I was not going to hear it from anyone. I wasn't going to hear it from anyone.
Well, okay, so alcoholism, I guess, runs in your mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
Do you think you're an alcoholic?
No.
What would you drink in like an average week then, and what about now?
So it's hard to measure what I was drinking because they were like always like the Trenta Starbucks cups. So half vodka, half soda, and I'd have bring one on stage. I mean, in Fully Loaded, it was out of control. On Fully Loaded, I was completely out of control because I'm with all my favorite comics, and we're doing activities all day. So like we get up and at breakfast, Big J would be like, "You want a beer?" I'd be like, "Yeah, let's do it." I remember the one day I was going to take off, we went golfing with Nate Bargatze and Chad Daniels. And Chad was like, I was like, "I'm not drinking." And he was like, "Oh, I was hoping we'd drink." And I was like, "Oh, of course I will." And so I went golfing with Chad and Nate. Nate doesn't drink. Chad and I probably had 4 double Tito's and sodas golfing. Came back. We had a slip and slide set up, a few cold beers there. Hit a joint, take a nap, get up. Jelly Roll shows up. Nate Bargatze's still there. I would go out, I would kill 2 beers when I got on stage, just murder 2 beers. I'd have my drink, and that during Fully Loaded, I was drinking during the shows. I was at a clip that was just unmanageable, but you're oblivious to it when you're in it. My cardiologist is like, this doesn't end well. He's just giving you a heads up, like, you gotta make a change. And I was always afraid they were gonna tell me I had to quit drinking. And they never said that. They were always like, yeah, you're fine, but one day, I think I texted with Rogan about diet, and I just got into this thing where I started to feel presence and joy, like real joy, like in not drinking and just being like present and joy. And I just kept not drinking. And like I'd taken Isla to school and like we listened to these podcasts and we were laughing hysterically and you're not hungover. I remember Isla said to me one time, "I love you not drinking. You're so present." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "We were at line Starbucks in the drive-thru. She goes, "If you were drank last night, this would be you." I said, "What do you, as opposed to?" And she goes, "As opposed to us talking right now." She's like, when people are hungover, they're like, ugh. It's like being sick. And she's like, "You're not sick. You just feel really alive." And so, and I still get after it. Like we went to see the Grateful Dead, I got after it.
I understand that the partying and the weight is like triggering to your dad because his dad died at a young age. What does he say to you?
My dad does this thing, if I open a beer, go, ooh, let me have a sip of that. And then he'll drink the whole thing so I can't have it, as if I can't go get another one. But he'll be like, whoa, you don't need to eat that, buddy. Oh, hold on, we're not gonna eat that today. You know what we're gonna do? We're not gonna eat it all today. Me and you, we're not eating today.
And it's gotten worse as he's gotten older.
It's gotten so bad. He triggers me, I trigger him. It's better when I've lost weight. Like it's better, but even still, I say it's better, it's not. My trainer noticed it. My dad stays at our house, and I have a gym attached to the house he stays in. And he would see me working out, and he'd be like, whoa, let's slow this down. We're not gonna calm down with this workout. You're not 22 years old anymore, big guy. Hang on, you're done working out. You're done working out. He's done, this is too much. You're 51 years old, don't forget that. You're and that's my dad. And I'm like, Dad, I'm fine. Like, I'm fine, I'm enjoying the workout. Like, you're gonna pull your oh, son of a Maggie, I need my marijuana. Where's my marijuana?
Your dad, I understand you guys are painfully close, to use words that were shared with me, reliant on one another and depend on each other in a weird way.
Oh, I'm not a grown up. I call him about everything, anything and everything. If I'm ordering a steak, I'll call him, hey, I'm looking at steaks, which one should I get? He goes, oh, ribeyes are amazing. I gotta get the ribeye. Well, yeah, but they got dry age and wet age. What the wet age? Hold on 1 second. Maggie, give me my iPad. What's a wet age versus a dry? Oh, I'd go wet aged. I'd go wet aged if I were you. And I'm like, all right, wet aged ribeye. And like, I don't know. I don't feel like my dad gave me a lot of really great blessings. He told me I was great under pressure when I don't even know if that applied, if that was real or not. He taught me how to apologize. If I ever said, my dad would always be a contrarian. Like when the Iraq war broke out and I was like 17 years old, I came home angry that we were at war. My dad's like, shut your mouth. You have no idea what that man's doing to his people. Go to your room until you realize why you're an idiot. And so I was forced at 17 to sit in my room and figure out why and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm talking about. And that must be why I'm an idiot. But my dad always taught me how to apologize. That's why I'm really good in my relationship with LeAnn, is I am very accountable. Like I am very self-correcting, and I can actually be in a fight with her and go, hold on, you're right, I f***ed up, I'm sorry. And then she won't, like sometimes she won't allow it. She's like, hold on, I ain't done, hold on. You're not really sorry. And I go, no, I really f***ed up, I'm sorry.
To what extent was the downside of some of that growing up, though, that it like stopped you from having opinions and made you less confident in decisions?
Well, that's why I don't talk about politics on stage. Because if I do say anything about politics, I hear my dad immediately go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Do you know why that's dumb? Do you know why what you're saying is stupid? So I never really believe in my opinion when it comes to politics or to anything kind of social. Like I envy like guys like Rogan or Tim Dillon who question things and don't mind getting up on a hill and being shot at. Like they don't mind. Like I don't say a word. Because I hear my dad in my head go, hold on, that vaccine saved a lot of people. I go, okay, all right. Yeah, I'll get it. Okay, like sure. Like I don't know, I'm not a contrarian. I just kind of go, yeah, I get it. And so then I choose weird things to talk about because that's where I feel my comfort, you know? So, or oversharing my life but yeah, like I envy those dudes who can talk wild about politics and sound confident and don't mind getting in a fight with people because I always hear the other side of the opinion as if it's my dad.
Was that one of the Rolexes he gave you?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No, this one LeAnn got me.
Because he gave you one early on, and then a second.
He thought he was having a heart attack. He thought he was dying.
And then a second later. And you said before that the watches are like one of the few things that you guys kind of have in common. Explain that.
I'll show him a watch. He'll be like, whoa, that's I love rose gold. Oh, the brown face is beautiful, buddy. Let me see that. Oh, your wrist is so big. Like it's weird, our connection. But yeah, he gave me my first Rolex when I was 20 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. He thought he was having a heart attack. He thought he was dying. His cardiologist told him, Two things.
And what do you remember, like him saying to you? And
Said, please leave the house.
what do you mean?
My cardiologist says you're killing me. Please leave the house.
Really?
Yeah. I was a pain in the ass. I was growing my hair out. He hated it. I was partying because I was in college. I was home. I had a job at CDB's in Tampa, and his buddies owned CDB's. That's how I got the job, and they wanted to fire me. And at one point, I just quit. My dad's like, what the f***, you quit? No one quits. And he was going through these cardiac infarctions or whatever, and they thought he was dying. And his cardiologist was like, do you have any stresses at home? And he was like, my son is making me crazy. He just bought a dog. I bought a dog. My dad's like, what the are you buying a dog for? And then my mom was like, I think you should go back to Tallahassee. You're going to kill your father. And so I moved back to Tallahassee.
And you're close to both parents.
Oh, very close.
Yeah.
Like problematically close. Like I talk to my parents every day. And so I moved back to Tallahassee.
You slept in their bedroom till you were 10.
Until I was 10.
Yeah.
You did your research.
Then slept in your sister's
Then
bedroom
slept in my
till you were
sister's
14.
bedroom until I was 14. And then around the time I wanted some private time, I got my own room. But yeah, so I moved back to Tallahassee, and then my whole family went to North Carolina for a road trip. And my dad drove to Tallahassee to pick me up. He said, listen, my heart's fine. They misdiagnosed me. And then me and my dad drove, and we talked about what was going on with us, and he gave me a Rolex, a stainless steel and gold Rolex, and I wore that. I wore that all the way up until I was 40 years old, and at 40 years old, he gave me his Rolex, like his. It's one I've worn on all my specials. It's his. And when I got it, it was like, I never really had anything super nice, you know? I was still at Travel Channel. I wasn't even doing good at Travel Channel. And so I definitely was never gonna make money to buy a Rolex. I felt like you'd meet people and they'd see it and then they'd think, oh, he must be doing something right. You know, that was the one, I remember Guy Fieri, we were backstage and at some event, and he shook my hand and then real quick grabbed my left hand and looked at my watch. He goes, nice. And he goes, Travel Channel salary? I said, my dad gave it to me. He goes, okay. But yeah, I'm thinking about today when I was working out, because I know one day my dad's gonna die and I'll get that phone call. I've thought about that phone call so much.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's gonna happen. I wonder who's gonna call me.
What do you think of it?
I think where I'll be, what I'll do, if I'll drink that night, will I be on the road? Will I have a show? Who do I tell? Where am I in the list of people that are told? Like I think of morbid things like that sometimes. Like I'm assuming they'll tell me before my sisters. So I think it'll be my mom calling me. But I wouldn't be shocked if his business partner, his partner in his law firm, Larry, called me. Yeah. I think about it a lot.
There was a period of time in college, I guess, where your parents were temporarily separated.
Yeah.
It was during then, I believe, that your sister would occasionally come to visit you.
Yeah.
I think you were in like 4th grade at the time, right?
10?
At 10, yeah. Like what were those experiences like?
It would never happen today. My parents split up.
She'd fly by herself.
She'd fly by herself to Tallahassee. And then she would live in my house. And then she would.
In your frat house.
In our frat house. She would live there. And she would take a sabbatical and move into the Tri-Delt house for like 3 days, 4 days. And then I remember one time we were at a bowling alley and I saw her at the same bowling alley. She was 10. She was with a bunch of sorority girls. And I was like, Kottie? And she's like, come bowl with us. I mean, she would go to parties and we would have her walk around with a hat to collect money, and everyone's gonna give money to a 10-year-old collecting money for a keg. And so she would walk around with she had this stuffed monkey she'd walk around, and the monkey had the hat, and she would raise like $500 when all you really needed was $100 for a keg. But she would live with us, and yeah, it's crazy. I would never let my 10-year-old do that. But it was a different time, I guess. And
how did that happen?
So me and my sister were in Tallahassee, and my parents split up, and it was just her, and I think it was making her crazy because she didn't want my parents to split up, and she was trying to micromanage the situation as a 10-year-old And it just was unhealthy. And I think my sister and I noticed it was not healthy for her. And she came up and stayed with me. And Annie lived up there too at the time. So she would go back and forth from my house or to Annie's house and then move into the sorority house for a week. And she'd plan parties. I mean, it was really crazy.
When I was talking to her yesterday, she said it was in part because she just missed you horribly.
She was very connected with me. She was very, very, very connected with me. It's crazy now. I don't think I've ever had anyone love me the way that kid loved me. When I would drive to college, we lived on this place called Bears Avenue, and you go to the 275 to get up to Tallahassee. My dad would drive her in a separate car to get me to the on-ramp to the interstate, and then they'd pull over at the Wendy's, and she would be crying, saying, "Don't go, don't go, don't go." And you're just like, it was heartbreaking. But yeah, she was like, she still is like one of my best friends. I mean, like, she's so funny. And I love, she works out at my gym at my house every morning at 8 in the morning. And I love going in there and seeing her. She's like, yeah, we're not doing thrusters today. That. Like, she's just hilarious. And it's crazy that she's done kind of what I did in this business, is created her own job. And now what she does, and I couldn't explain it to you if I wanted to, but that job didn't exist like 5-10 years ago. And now it does because of her, and she's thriving at it.
How does one become a 6th-year senior?
You know, a lot of procrastination, a lot of just putting off life decisions. I didn't know that you had to like declare a major after a certain point. I just thought everyone would leave at a certain point, and I just never started leaving. And by the way, I have no regrets in college. Like, I have no regrets, meaning like I did it perfectly. I did it perfectly.
You didn't go back to Florida State, though, for a while because you didn't feel great about how it ended.
I had a bad taste in my mouth at the end. The people that were in charge of the school at the time were cruel. The English department was cruel, and the president was cruel.
How so?
They didn't let me graduate. I mean, granted, I think if I had a little bit of ownership, I'd say maybe I didn't do the work, but but what happened is... But
you were right there where you should have been able to
I did all the work. And by the way, it was a writing class. I had submitted all the work, and the teacher at the time, I wish I remember his name. I would love to call this person out. I don't remember his name, or I would mention it. I walked next to work done. They put work done in front of me in a weird way, and I think is a move, because they knew how loud the applause would be for work done, and you didn't really hear my name after that. And I think they were afraid that I was going to do something. I don't know. I thought it was cool that I sat next to work done, personally. So I don't give a and then I get home. I'm ready to move to New York, and I get a call from the school saying, you, in fact, didn't graduate. You're not getting your diploma. You still are shy by 6 credits. And I was like, wait, what? And it was this creative writing teacher. I was a creative writing major, and he had 2 of my classes, and he failed me in both of them. I went up to the college. I walked into his closet of an office, and I said, hey, I'm Bert. He goes, no, I know who you are. A Rolling Stone guy. And I was like, yeah. I said, well, listen, here's the deal. I must have failed 2 of your classes or whatever it is, but I'm moving to New York. And so I'd love to make those classes up, because obviously I'd love my diploma. And he did a thing where he talked to me like a fucking idiot to me, and almost convinced me that I was a idiot. And he was like, hey, what do you need a diploma for? You're famous now. And I was like, well, yeah, I know. Like, he was like, yeah, I heard you got a book deal. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, we talked about it, but he goes, I heard Oliver Stone optioned the rights to your life. I was like, yeah, it's like some big things going on. He's like, you're gonna be a stand-up? He's like, you don't need a diploma. Yeah, you know what? I'll never give you a diploma. I will never give you the opportunity to make those classes. It makes me happy to fail you. I went, what? He goes, go yourself. You get a book deal? I'm a writer. I can't get a book deal. And you get a book deal because you partied your balls off? I will never pass you in my classes. Good luck. So like in a weird way, it almost tricked me. Like at the end, I was like, wait, he's being an asshole. I thought he was being my buddy. I walked out of the room and I was like, and then I was like, I moved to New York. I had to take correspondence classes, which are identical to the prison classes, where they send you a box of books, and then they're like, write papers on these books. I'd never read a book in my life. But I got really bitter towards Florida State, and then I got my first development deal, and Florida State reached out for money, and I was like, what? And I was like, they're like, hey, who are your alumni? Like, I mean, my fraternity at one point disowned me, and then they hit me up for money, and then I was like, I don't everyone. And it wasn't until this year that I went back to Florida State, and all the shitty people were gone, and it was all new people, all really cool new people. College has changed, and they reached out. First of all, I did the Civic Center. I didn't know I was doing the Civic Center. I saw Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins play at the Civic Center. I saw Bobcat Goldthwait at this. Adam Sandler was at the Civic Center when I was in college. I did the Civic Center, and I had no clue I was doing the Civic Center. I had no clue whatsoever. And I walked in, and I realized I'm doing an arena. This is insane. And it sold out. And before the thing, they're like, we want to give you a present. I thought they were going to give me a doctorate. They gave me the spear that they throw into that's like my one connection with that school. And when it happened, I bawled crying. They gave me that spear, and they said, we know how much the spear meant to you. We want you to have this.
What about the spear still gets to you?
My dad said, when you go to Florida State, you're going to feel a sense of civic pride, because that's a community. You're going to feel like you're a part of something. And I didn't get it. And I was 18 years old, a little buzzed. We're at a football game. I put a dip in, my head spinning. Chief Osceola comes out on Renegade, and I feel 50,000 people explode. And he runs up and down the field and then rears back, the spear's on fire, and he spikes it in the head of the Seminole head in the center, and the place pops. 18 years old, I start crying uncontrollably. I start sobbing, going like, I'm a part of something. This is what my dad was talking about. So that spear meant so much to me. And then that day at Tallahassee, I decided I wanted to have a moment. I wanted to see the place I first did stand-up. I wanted to see my old houses. I wanted to go get some food, but I really wanted to walk the campus. I don't know if I was famous or not, but I was working. I was doing big things. I've been on Netflix a bunch. And I started walking around that campus, and people started sticking their heads out of their dorm rooms, just going, welcome home, Berty Boy. It gets me emotional, because it was like, I didn't feel like I was a part of it. I felt like I got separated from that community. But then the kids that went to school there, they were proud of me. I was one of them. They knew it, because we all felt it. And kids were getting in their car, and they were driving and finding me. And they were like, Bert, can I get a picture? And like the cops pulled me over, and they're like, Berty Boy. And I was like, and like only people that love me call me Berty Boy. And everyone was yelling out their windows, welcome home, Berty Boy. And then I all of a sudden I was like, yeah, this is my home. This is where I spent 6.5 years in this place. But yeah, man, I fucking love that school. I love being a part of it. And it took a while for me to, I guess, to forgive myself. I don't know, forgive all that. But it was, I love that school. It's the best experience. I have no regrets.
So the Rolling Stone article, which was where you first kind of had your taste of fame, that was huge. Number one party school.
Yeah.
A movie's made about it, National Lampoon's Van Wilder. Through all the stories I read on you, you've always made a point of saying you never watched it. Why has it been important to you to point that out, though?
It was brought to my attention the day it came out. My agents called me, and they're like, hey, you remember that thing you were developing back when we first met you? Well, it's turned into a movie. They made the movie.
Is this Barry Katz?
Barry Katz was on the call. I'll only use his name because he gave me the best advice that I've ever gotten. Some of the best advice. They all wanted to sue National Lampoon, and Barry was like, listen, Papa, there's two types of people in this business. People who work and people who sue. Pick which one you want to be. And I was like, well, I'm already working. He's like, I think you made your answer. And so I just kind of was like, whatever. First of all, I love Ryan Reynolds. I think he's awesome. Secondly, I had nothing to do with the movie. And once you make a movie, after I made my movie, I realized just how gross it is to ever try to attach yourself to the hard work of someone else. And I think the reason I never watched the movie is I never wanted to be able to answer questions about the movie. Because everyone's like, did you a bulldog? And so they always ask me. I go, I did, but I didn't tell anyone about it. No, I'm kidding. No, but like I don't have any connection. So I never wanted to I never tried to own it. I said I'll watch it. I'll watch it, but I want to watch it.
Only with him?
Only with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
I will watch it with Ryan Reynolds.
I wanted to talk to you about the Travel Channel show and Hurt Bert. Name all the injuries that you sustained.
I mean, the worst one was I fell off a waterfall. I got mauled by a bull on Hurt Bert. That was the first. I mean, Hurt Bert was the mother. I was a professional football player, an MMA fighter, a dominatrix gimp. I fought a bear. I tamed lions. I swam with great white sharks out of the cage. That was like the craziest. That was the craziest life experience. And then on Bert the Conqueror, I did crazy once in a lifetime events and rode roller coasters. And I started getting PTSD then. I didn't know I was getting it because I just thought you had to go to war to get PTSD. I didn't realize that, it can just be bad that happens to you.
You ended up going to therapy for it.
I had to go to therapy. Everything happens. I mean, we're talking 4 years of a show, and then on the final episode, I fall off a waterfall, dropped 20 feet onto my back onto a rock, had to crawl out like on my hands and knees out of a ravine 210 feet. It was bad. I got hooked on oxys and Valium right after that. Like, I was just eating them because this is before the real opioid crisis. Anyone's honest. And so the doctor says, take one every 4 hours, take a Valium and an oxy every 4 hours. I did.
You think you got addicted?
If LeAnn was here, she would say, LeAnn's always good. I always tell it bigger so that you know how I felt. Mm-hmm. I don't think I had like an addiction, but LeAnn threw them away.
Yeah.
And was like, you're done. You're done. We're going camping. You're done. And that week, I definitely experienced withdrawals because I said some really nasty things to her. Like to this day, if they come up, we both laugh, and she goes, "You're lucky."
What'd you
I
say?
love you. I can't. I will not.
Okay.
I've said some horrific things. Just coming off of oxys, just you're like in so much pain and so uncomfortable, and nothing rights the boat. Like nothing. As much alcohol as you drink, you're still wanting a fucking pill. Especially Valium and oxys was my mix, and I was on edge. But I wouldn't say the production company is as irresponsible as the host will let them be. I never said no. And you were doing crazy once in a lifetime events 3 times a day.
How about that AFL concussion?
Oh, I made a mistake. I played Arena Football League, and they put me in as quarterback, and I realized the offensive line wasn't going to block. And so I went, all right, cool, I'll run it up the middle. And I ran it up the middle at practice, at the end of practice, and scored a touchdown. And the coach was like, are you kidding me? This is why you're on the bench, because that guy, a comedian, just blew your doors. He better leave here in a stretcher or none of you will have a job. And I was like, oh, maybe I guess I could have just taken a knee.
Or you could have stopped there.
Oh, and they me up. I mean, they were just teeing off of me, helmet to helmet. I mean, I could have gotten waxed bad. I remember auditioning for Bert the Conqueror. Ryan Dunn from Jackass was auditioning. He's like, have you heard the things they want to do? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you do that? And I remember going like, I'll do anything. Like, I need money. Like, I'll do whatever the I'll suck my own they let me. They teach me. And so, and then by the end, I remember I was in South Africa, and I had one day where I jumped off a stadium, I rappelled off Table Mountain, and I swam with great white sharks in a 10-hour day. And I was on my bed, shaking, like trying to have a drink to relax. And I talked to LeAnn, she's like, just take a hot bath. I go, a hot bath? Are you you think a bath's gonna right this boat? But yeah, man, it was crazy. Like everything there was to do. First person to jump off stratosphere.
I saw that video.
The day I was supposed to jump off the stratosphere, I called LeAnn in the middle of the night. I was supposed to jump the next morning. I was like, I'm running away. I'm getting in the car. I'm gonna hide in the desert. No one's gonna know. I know you need to know I'm safe, but don't tell them where I'm at. And she was like, just tell them you can't do it. And I was like, that's not an option, LeAnn. I signed a deal. I have to do all this shit. She goes, tell them you can't do it. So the next morning, I went to Dan Adler and I said, I can't do it. And he just goes, cool. I was like, what? He goes, that's fine. There's gonna be things you can't do. He's like, just when you get to the edge, just back out at the edge. I need you to get to the edge. He's like, this is the last 30 seconds of television anyway. We already got the number. Just get to the edge, back out, and I can make a show out of that. But you got to back out at the edge. You got to get to the edge.
Meanwhile, isn't like the mayor there?
The mayor's there. David Copperfield's there. The showgirls are there. They got doves. They got shots of tequila waiting for me. It's Vegas.
Yeah.
They're opening a new event.
Right.
They've spent millions of dollars on this. We get to the edge and I'm playing it up. I know I'm backing out. Scott Sands, my cameraman, is harnessed into the edge, off the edge of the stratosphere. He's harnessed in, and he just looks over and he goes, hold on. Yeah. He goes, the mayor just showed up. And I was like, what? And he goes, the mayor's so excited to meet you. He's got a shot of tequila waiting for you. And I was like, what? And he goes, oh, I'd just jump if I were you. I go, what? And he goes, it's 8 seconds and it's over. He goes, jump as opposed to spending the rest of your life explaining why you didn't jump. Just jump. I said, really? And he said, this will be in the credits of the show. It's gonna look badass. And I guarantee you get a second season and you could probably buy a house. I was like, F it, I'm jumping. And they're like, what? I go, I'm jumping. And harness me in, I'm jumping. And they're like, wait, hold on, he's jumping. We got a jumper. I go, you ready? 3, 2, 1. I jump, I land, I stick it perfectly like Tom Cruise. One knee down, arms out, and I deliver what is probably the greatest American speech ever been delivered by anyone. Take a shot with the mayor, everything. Doves released, David Copperfield does a magic trick, everyone's losing their mind. My producer comes up to me and goes, we can get it. I said, what? And he goes, we didn't have audio on you. It's too far. The distance, 111 stories, is too far to get audio. They needed an audio guy downstairs. If I was gonna jump, they needed to send the audio guy down first. So they have no audio on my speech. They go, we need you to jump again. Are you kidding me? And they're like, I mean, we gotta get the speech. The speech was good, can you redo it? And I was like, got in the elevator, 111 stories back up to the top. Everyone's like, you're going again? And I was like, yeah. Got up to the edge, jumped. 2 maintenance men cleaning up from the party. That's all that is there. I land, I give them the speech.
What did the therapy entail getting through the PTSD?
Realizing your traumatic event doesn't need to be traumatic to everyone else, it just needs to be traumatic to you. Mm-hmm. And if you experience a traumatic event, as little or as big as it may be to you, it lands on you. Some dudes go to the military, and like there's one of the things he told me, my cousin kind of vouched for me. My cousin had a hard time in parking lots because he felt exposed. Well, this sounds silly to me and you going, you can't just park at Target and walk in? He's like, nah, I can't. I can't get out of my car because the second I get out, it brings me back to Iraq where I'm like, man, I have too many access points. This is dangerous. And so I kind of started processing that in therapy and going, I mean, so many times I would just go, I'm a comedian. I'm just a comedian. I'm just a comedian.
You said the recent panic attacks you've had are the worst they've ever been.
Searing.
How so?
My brain just, I didn't realize how many people get them like after they drink. I get searing panic attacks.
And what does that mean?
Well, just searing, like wake up and you realize one day, inevitably, it's going dark. One day you die. One day it will happen to all of us. It gives me panic just thinking about it. And I think about that when I wake up sometimes. Most of the times I wake up going, one day, you can't stop it. And then you do this thing where you go, whew, let's get that thought out of your head. I think about that a lot. I think about my death often, a lot. More so probably less when I don't drink. When you're living your life healthy and you're living your life right, you don't wake up with those searing panic attacks, but when you're not and you're pushing it hard and you're burning at both ends, you have those mornings where you wake up and you're like, oh, let's make sure I can smile. All right, we didn't have a stroke last night. All right, arms feel a little weird. I slept on my arm weird. And like, just searing panic attacks. I get them when I'm not living my life like right. But I think what gets you into the gym and makes you do healthy things, and it definitely guides you to live better and have water and eat right. But yeah, they show up. My dad has them, my sisters have them, I have them. I think my kids have them. I hope they don't have them as bad as I have them. But yeah.
In preparing for this, it was interesting, like how you process certain things. And if you don't mind, tell about the dream you had after your close friend's suicide.
So I've periods of very vivid dreams. I'm going through them right now. For whatever reason, my brain just dreams very intensely, like very intensely. When I wake up, I remember almost all my dreams, and if I start one dream, I can almost web them and tell you all 8 that I had, or 8, at least remind you of 8. So I had a dream. My buddy, one of my best friends, a guy I've known since we were 14. He was probably 12 at the time when I first met him. I was better friends with his brother at the time. He committed suicide, and I had a very vivid dream of Jason Biggs and his wife, Jenny Molin, had just had a baby in real life. And I was in their car with them driving to my buddy's parents' house. And I was in the back seat with their baby in the thing, and he was crying, and they were trying to calm him down, but I could translate his crying. And it was my buddy. It was my buddy in the baby's body. And he was like, "What's happening? Where am I?" And I was like, "Croy?" And he was like, "Bert?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, where am I?" I said, "Oh, you're in a baby's body. Like, you've been reincarnated, I guess. You're in a baby's body. Your parents are Jason Biggs, the guy from American Pie, and Jenny Molin. She's an actress too. She's really big on Instagram." He's like, "Wait, how did I get here?" And I went, "Oh, you killed yourself." He was like, "I did?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "How?" I said, I think you were pretty up. I think you had been partying for a couple days and you did it in a hotel room." He's like, "Oh, He's like, "How's my brother doing?" And I said, not good. No one's dealing with it. He's like, "How about my parents?" I said, "They're not good either." And he was like, "Well, wait, how bad?" And I said, it's pretty bad. I said, "We're going to their house to have dinner right now." And he's like, "For real?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we went in, and Croy's parents are awesome. They're like really awesome. They're really fun people. And Joycey, his mom's like, she doesn't care about celebrity, but she thinks it's cool. And like, the fact that you're doing big things, it's not lost on her. So the fact that we were bringing Jason Biggs and Jenny Molin to their house was cool, and Joyce was really into it. And I was sitting, and Croy's dad's a big personality, and he was just holding court. But the whole time, Croy is in the bassinet or whatever, and he's like, "I want to talk to my mom." And the baby's crying, but only I can understand him. And he's like, "Bert, let me talk to my mom." And Joycey's going, "Tell that baby to calm down." And he's crying. He's like, "Mom, it's me. Please, please, Mom." And she's like, "Come here, give me this baby." And she holds the baby, who's Croy. And he starts saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I f***ed up. I f***ed up. I wish I was there, and I'm sorry I put you through this. Dad, I'm so sorry." And then Benny leans over, and he's like talking to the baby, and Benny says, "It's okay, buddy. It's okay. We're all gonna be fine." And they forgave. So stupid. They forgave Croy for this mistake he made by taking his own life. And I witnessed all of it. And all of a sudden there's closure for Croy and for his parents and for me. And then I wake up and I'm sobbing, crying. And LeAnn's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, just one of the craziest dreams I've ever had in my entire life. But yeah, I ended up telling that to Comedy Central. I sold a show on it. Isn't that crazy? I swear to God. I just cried to Comedy Central in a room, and they're like, "We'll do 10 episodes." I swear to God.
Okay, so what do you think's responsible for you dealing with stuff in that way?
I don't know. I do lucid dreaming, so I can control my dreams at times. I had a dream that I was I was on stage, and I look over and there's 4 dudes in Klan outfits, and then I look down and I'm in a Klan outfit, but my mask's up so you can see my face. And I'm like, "What the f***?" And it's an audience full of black people. And I was like, "I gotta get the f*** out of here. This is gonna be bad. This is a bad look. If these people see this, I'm going viral." And then this voice on the loudspeaker goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Click Clack Klan." And we start tap dancing. And we're so good that everyone sees past the Klan outfits and they're just losing their minds. They're like, "Yeah, it's a real dream." I have 35 of them that I recorded when I was doing the show with Comedy Central, and they are wild. I mean, wild. They would get so outrageous that I was like, I mean, like, I've had insane dreams, and I love it. I love dreaming. It's kind of what I love about marijuana, because marijuana will tell you so people that don't like marijuana don't like the fact that they don't have control over it. Because sometimes if you're high and then you're in bed, your brain will go like, I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow. I gotta hit a horse with a shovel. And you're like, wait, who said that? And then you're like, weed, what the are you doing? But that's also what happens when you start dreaming. When you're dreaming, you're in bed going like, I got a busy day, I gotta put flippers on a dog. And you're like, wait, what? Oh, I'm getting ready to dream. And so I love when weed does that to me in bed.
Why have you said you wish you didn't do so many drugs early on?
You mean like, in like college?
Yeah.
I don't know, I never did drugs the way like dudes do drugs. Like I always just did them, I guess because that's what we were doing. You know, like I wasn't searching them out. I never was like, yo, we need to have Coke. We need to get Coke tonight. Yeah. I was the guy in the room where they had Coke, and I was like, I didn't want to be the guy saying no. And so I was like, okay. I mean, I wish I had more of a backbone. I mean, I wish I'd never done acid. That's the dumbest drug in the world. I did mushrooms a bunch, but never was I searching it out. I mean, ecstasy was something every time I took, I was like, I'd have a panic attack and go, as soon as you eat the pill, you're like, I hope I don't die. There's no taking this back, you know? And so, and even weed, I had bad experiences with weed, and I really just found my relationship with marijuana recently, and I love what it can do for you. It's such a sweet lover. But yeah, like I just wish I never needed them. I never needed them. I mean, I never needed alcohol to be myself. I could be myself without anything and have a great time.
I wanted to ask you about your wife, though, LeAnn, because we had the chance to obviously spend time with both of you in Philly. And when preparing for the interview and knowing you're this like larger than life personality, you know, you like to have a good time and party, one would not think that's the recipe for a successful relationship.
No.
And then I sat down with both of you, and like, you guys adore each other. Why do you think it works?
I think it's a weird recipe. I think it starts with losing my virginity. I didn't like that experience. It was
That's
not
because
good.
it was a mattress.
It was a mattress. Yeah, it didn't go well. I didn't hit it out of the park, and I think that redefined me as a person. If it had gone well, and I had performed well, I might have been the dog doing stand-up every night trying to get I might have been that guy. But it didn't go well, and I realized at that moment, sex for me is not something I want to share with everyone. It's someone I want to do with someone I trust, that is gonna love me and that I'm gonna love them. This is gonna sound crazy. The idea of laying in bed next to a girl that I did not love made me really sad. That I would share sex with someone and then it would be disposable.
Because
so,
you said before you've had sex with 6 people, I think, which...
Women.
One women.
We should put that out there. Just, I don't know where history's going. I just want everyone to know they were women, which, listen, now that I know that you can be a top and just dudes in the ass, I might have done that. I don't know. I don't even think that's that gay.
But, you know, one would think it would be just based on, you know, the lifestyle, the number would be insanely high.
Everyone thinks, they're like, you were the #1 party animal at the #1 party school. You must have gotten tons of ass. And I was like, nah. Like, I really want to just find someone that gets me and that, like, I can share myself with. And when I met LeAnn, she was just different than everyone else. And I think we met each other at the right time. We were both a little older. I mean, not now, it doesn't seem old, but like 30. I was 29 when I met her. And she just got me. She didn't want to change me. She wanted me to be who I was. And I in a weird way, was like, if I got someone who lets me be who I am, I'm perfect.
Why have you said before you're only an okay husband and father?
I hung around dudes who, like, you'd see them do interviews and they'd talk about what a great dad they were. And then you saw them as a dad and you're like, bro, you're not. If I'm honest, like the majority of dads out there are like, I'm not killing it. I remember one time someone said to me, don't you think it's irresponsible that you work as hard as you do when you're on the road, but you have a family? Like, shouldn't you focus on your family? And I remember thinking, sitting on an airplane next to a dude who was in the military, and he's like, yeah, I've been gone in Afghanistan for like 2 years. This is my first time coming home. And I was like, that dad seems to be doing it. But that dad isn't sitting next to me going, I kill it. And he was like, yeah, man, it's tough. Being a dad's tough. I used to have a joke. I don't hit them. I don't piss on them. Like, I love them. I don't drink and drive. Like, there's certain things that I hold very precious. But like, I'm never gonna tell you I'm a great dad. And I'm never gonna tell you I'm a great husband. I'm pretty regular.
The role your kids play in your life would be what?
Muses? I don't know. I mean, I wanted to be this edgy comic so bad. I didn't want to be a dad comic. I had one joke about Isla putting her finger in her ass and putting it in the dog's mouth. And it was just a story that I thought was funny, and I told it. And Ian Bagg came up to me and said, that is you. That's hilarious. No one's telling jokes like that. But Georgia has always been like, have you seen what Isla's doing? Have you seen this? And so Isla and Georgia have been ultimately my muses. I've probably unfairly mined their entire childhood for material.
I understand body hair is one thing they require you to stay away from.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't even, like, I'm nervous to even say it now because when the girls hit puberty, and we're just talking like armpit hair. When the girls hit puberty, I thought it was so funny. And I remember one night something happened in the house and it was funny. We were all laughing. It was hilarious. I'm biting my tongue because Isla said to me that night, this doesn't go on stage. She must have been 10. This doesn't go on stage. And I went, are you being serious? She goes, this is ours. And I was like, baby, it's so good. And she goes, and then I just realized I just don't ask her. I don't ask her. Sometimes I don't ask her if it's good, I just go ask for forgiveness. Like, she used to say for the longest time, when I turn 16, I can start cursing. We're like, no, that's not how it works. And she goes, no, 16, you can curse. Georgia turned 16. Dad, she curses. When I get 16, I can curse. And on her 16th birthday, we were having a birthday party at the house, and I had my camera out, and everyone was texting me, what's Isla's first curse word gonna be? Because I'd said it on podcasts. And I said, Isla, I pull my camera out, I go, what's your first curse word gonna be? And she's eating dinner next to LeAnn, and she looks at LeAnn and goes, and I put it online. That night, she woke me up at 2 in the morning and said, hey, you gotta take that down. I said, what? She goes, it's got 6 million views on TikTok. I was like, I have tour dates to sell. Like, we can use that. Well, how come I didn't brand the tour? And then she goes, no, that'll be the meme. Everyone will take the audio of that, and then they'll do their and then I'll forever be the girl. In college, they'll go, oh, you were the girl? You gotta take it down. So I took it down. And then the other day, I don't know if you saw it, but Isla got swept out to sea.
No.
It's so good. The big waves are happening on the coast, and she sees a big wave coming in and realizes she's gonna try to run in front of it and beat it, and she lost. It's got 17, I think it's at 20 million views right now.
Jeez.
I didn't tell her I put it up.
You once said that if they could trade your success for anonymity again, they would do it in a second. Yeah. Still the case today?
Yeah. You know, anonymity is very precious.
You don't realize it until it's gone.
I had it, I didn't like it. Obviously, I didn't like it. I looked at kids who had famous parents or parents were just well known, and I thought that was the coolest thing when I was growing up. I was like, that's the secret sauce. So I got into this business. When I got my first taste of success, of fame, it wasn't even success, it was just fame in college, I don't know, I thought it was sexy. It was cool that you'd be at Blimpies and there'd be a table of girls that were pretty going, that's him. That's the party animal. I thought it was cool. I've always thought it was cool. I was at a party the other night and I met George R.R. Martin, and someone introduced me as in he does arenas, and George R.R. Martin went, oh, for real? I love comedy. Where can I find your stuff? I go, I got 5 Netflix specials. I got a movie on Netflix. I got a TV show on Netflix. I don't mind it. I don't mind it for real. And I know that's not a sexy thing to say, and I know it comes out gross. That should not be the motive behind you. But I didn't realize how precious anonymity was, and I took theirs away. And when they were kids, I remember the first time, I think I did Hey Big Boy, and I told Isla, I was in the pool with her, and I said, hey, in this special I talk a lot about you, and I just want to make sure we're okay. And she said, must have been like 10 or 12. She goes, it's fine. She goes, I know you love me. She goes, the only thing I don't like is when people I don't know who I am. And I went, is that weird? She goes, it's very weird. At school, like all the kids know who I am and I don't know them. So I never feel like safe. I feel like people are watching me. And I was like, oh, but it was too late. I was like, and then, you know, and that special, I think I talked about her getting her period and throwing a period party. And yeah, like we went skiing and we were having a real family moment, like a real, Georgia was going through some I was being a great dad. I was very present. I'll just say it was very emotional for both of us. And my lifestyle had gotten out of control at a certain point that I don't think I realized. I was just working so hard. I had blinders on. It was a great conversation between me and Georgia about me focusing on my career and what she's going through. And we get off the gondola and we're still having this moment and people are coming up going, hey, Bert, oh, Georgia, can I get a picture of both of you? And Georgia's like, she said to me that night, she goes, I understand that these are the people that are paying for my college. I get that. She goes, it's really tough, Dad, to like have a moment with you when you get pulled from so many directions. The other day I thought about it, how many Instagram stories they were a part of. I mean, at one point they didn't like in my Instagram stories and I'd start an Instagram story and Georgia in the back would be like, Dad beats Mom. And I'd be like, Georgia. She goes, hey, can't post it now.
How about your experience running into Whitney Houston, though?
That is my favorite story. And it's 100, I mean, all my stories are real. I always punch them up to make sure you're entertained.
Yeah.
But yeah, Georgia broke her jaw. She was maybe like 3 or 4. And I was on the road. I got a call from LeAnn. We have an emergency. You need to come home immediately. Georgia broke her jaw and broke all her teeth. And I was like, shit. I was a young dad. Billy Gardell was on the road with me. Billy Gardell said to me, buddy, there's 2 ways you can handle this. Go to your room, get a good night's sleep, get on that plane, and be a great dad. And you know the other one. And I go, what's the other one? He goes, me and you go to the bar. We just drink. We're dads. I'll be there with you every drink. And we went down to the bar and we drank all night long. I woke up. I did not sleep for the flight barely. I cried the whole flight home. Came home. Had to take Georgia to a very expensive dentist in Beverly Hills. Small details make a story like that. It does, because it was out of our price range. We couldn't afford it. But you know, it's your kid and you want to get the best thing, the best service. And so they said, yeah, we're gonna have to put her under. And I was freaking out. LeAnn told me to take a Xanax. She's like, you need to be present. You can't overwhelm the situation with your emotions. You need to be present. Putting her under is really dangerous because of her age. So we get there at like 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. No, it's not even open yet. They bring us in, they take her back. All her teeth are jacked. Her jaw is broken. And they go to put the IV in her and they can't find a vein. They stick her like 6 times and they can't find a vein. She's melting down. He goes, hey, we're gonna have to put the mask over her face, but she's gotta breathe evenly. So you need to help calm her down and get her breathing down. And then I remember my first thought was, what if she doesn't wake up? Like this is a real morbid thought, but I go, what do we do with the body? Like, do you keep it or do we take it home?
Oh, come on.
I swear to God, that's my brain, my first thought. And then I was like, hold on, I need to get out of this. And I was like, okay. So I go to George, I go, baby, we're gonna smell some sweet gas and then you're gonna take a nap and then everything's gonna be good. And she says, what if I don't wake up? And I went, and I had the same question. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Just take a deep breath. Put her under. I lose it. I bawl crying. I go to the bathroom. I start crying so bad. I come out of the bathroom and maybe 5 minutes has gone by. I'm in the lobby. Now the lobby's open. It's like 7 in the morning and people are coming in and there's like a kid sitting in the corner with his dad and he's looking at his dad like, you said it wasn't gonna be that bad. Like, this guy's melting down, Dad. What are they doing there? There's this black chick with this black dude sitting across from us and she's trying to make eye contact with me to calm me down, but I am crying aggressively, can't see anything. LeAnn's crying. Another 5 minutes of me crying in front of these people goes by and they go, your daughter's good. She's out. She's not awake yet, but she's out. You can come. There's a receiving room. We're gonna let her wake up in. So we take her back to this receiving room. There's this curtain and it's a beautiful couch. It's expensive dentist. And I exhale. I'm like, she's alive. She's alive. There's gauze, there's everything. LeAnn's holding her. And all of a sudden the curtain opens and it's the black chick. Whitney Houston. Puts her arm on me and says, it's tough being a daddy, isn't it? And I'm like, oh my God. I look at LeAnn here. LeAnn almost dropped Georgia. She's like, Whitney Houston? She sits down, strokes Georgia's hair, talks to LeAnn about being a mom. If I'm not mistaken, you have to ask LeAnn. I think she paid for our anesthesiologist. We didn't have to pay for it. She was like, it's on me.
Really?
Yeah, Whitney Houston was a dream.
I want to ask you about the tough period in your career. I think it's this 2016-ish timeframe. Travel Channel drops you. You had upcoming expected tour dates that go away, the Showtime specials, low rated. Take me to like that moment and what's going through your head at the time.
So it was panic. A lot of people are always waiting for the other shoe to drop, like they're waiting for the hammer. And it hit. I was this guy, had some success on Travel Channel. I thought I had it all set out. I had these deals at Travel Channel where you'd make, I think like $300,000 a year guaranteed. And then if they used you more, you can make more money. And I was making like legit money. And I remember kept going like, my dad had a motto, eat and cash checks, eat and cash checks. And I was sitting with him having a glass of wine and a cigar behind his house. And he said, what's going to happen with you? And I said, I don't know, Dad, eat cash checks. I hope this Travel Channel, hope I sign another deal. My dad started crying. He was like, I think I you up. He was like, eat cash checks are for the guys without talent. He goes, you have talent. You need to, now's the chance. Now's when you take the chance on yourself. You need to really roll the dice on you or you'll always regret it. You'll be the guy that stayed at Travel Channel because it was safe. Now's the opportunity. And then ran into Rogan. I was on a motorcycle in Vietnam and Rogan called me up. He was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm drunk, I'm high, I'm on a motorcycle running through rice paddies in Vietnam. Sun's setting, there's water buffalo everywhere. And he's like, you're the machine. Rogan's like, get the away from Travel Channel. This is who you are. You're a storyteller. You got to talk about this on stage. Get that your show sucks. Focus on podcasting. And then all those conversations are happening and I get a call. Within the same day, I was supposed to get a vasectomy. We started demolition on our house to redo that house, which I didn't, once again, I don't have money and I'm always panicking. And I get fired from Travel Channel. And my Showtime special premieres. It's the lowest rated Showtime special they've ever had because I took my shirt off. And then I get pulled off the Funny or Die tour. And I called Tommy and I said, I'm not doing the tour with you and Joey and Sebastian and Fluffy and Dane. And it was a bangers list. That was an honor to be on that list. And then I get pulled off and I'm like, I remember Tom's like, man, that's a lot of money to lose out on. And I was like, it's only $2,000. And he was like, huh? I said, I'm only getting $2,000 for the weekends and I got to pay for flight and hotel. So I think I'd end up not even, I'd break even maybe or lose money really. Tom goes, I think you got the numbers mixed up. And I was like, no, it's $2,000 a weekend. I go, wait, what are you getting paid? And Tom's like, I don't want to tell you. I was like, why? He goes, I think it'll our friendship. I was like, whoa, hold on. And then in my head, I do the math. I go, okay, all right, he's getting $10,000 a week. He's getting maybe $15,000 a week. Okay, he's got a great Netflix special. He's my friend, I love him. I want him to be successful. I want success for my friend. And I said, you can tell me. He said, are you sure this isn't gonna up our friendship? And I remember I put my phone on the desk on speaker. Put my elbows on my knees. I was getting ready to work out. At the time, Tom is fat shaming me on Twitter and it's going viral. Rogan loves it. He thinks it's hilarious. Like, you guys need to do weigh-ins on our show. You should do a fat challenge, see who loses the most weight. And I have this conversation with Tom. And mind you, my house has been destroyed. My house is destroyed. I'm getting on the treadmill. I'm fat as and Tom's like, 20 grand. And I went, it's not that bad. Are you making 20 grand a weekend? He goes, no, a show. And I went, hold on. You're making $20,000 a show? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, no. It really is like the most pivotal thing that ever happened in my career because it forced me to realize just exactly where I was. Well, it's like at a certain point, every athlete realizes I'm not going pro. And at that moment I went, wow, that's my value in this business. And I was like, I can't be real. I gotta change it. I gotta do things. I gotta do what I think is right. And I had already learned how to edit and I'd been doing a vlog and the vlogs had gotten a little traction and I posted the machine story. I posted fighting a bear. I posted all the stuff I didn't even ask permission. As a matter of fact, I almost got sued by Showtime. I put up all the clips from the special. Machine story goes viral. The Rock reshares one of my fat shaming things with, everything's going in the right direction. Everything seems like it's getting received well. And then we did the fat shaming thing, and the loser lost his beard. Now, once again, I had a thought. I was in therapy, talking to my therapist about it. So I'm really nervous about losing my beard. And my therapist very casually goes, I wouldn't. I mean, if you said that you could put me on Rogan and all he had to do is shave my face, you know how many people Google my face? And then I was like, the weight loss challenge. If I lose, I get my beard shaved, probably more people are gonna Google what I look like without a, I was like, it's just like it's like when MC Hammer sold shirts, MC Hammer, and he was making double the money. And so we did the challenge, I lost, Tom beat me, he shaved my beard. It was one of the funniest moments I've ever had. The machine story goes viral. And then I started doing my own posters. I started doing everything. Everything was like in-house. It was all me doing everything. And from that moment until today, every show I've ever done sold out. Every show. I remember the first weekend I asked them, why are you here? And the guys are like, dude, in the machine. I was like, I've retired that story, guys. And they're like, the you have?
Berty Boy, your company, I think you have something like a dozen staffers. Explain like the specifics of what the company does.
What happened in my career is that I noticed that no one was gonna take care of me. I started doing my own promo videos. Even when my buddies said they were horrible ideas, I started doing things on my own that I was like, that's just me. And then what would happen is brands would come to me and be like, yo, we wanna do something. Can you just do something with us? And LeAnn was smart enough to be like, you know, a great partner we have is Liquid Death. And she's like, let's invest in the company. Like if you believe in, and they believe in your creative ideas, you should work with them. And things were happening all at that time. And I had a year. This 2023 was it was the year of the machine. It was like the movie came out, the special came out. We did a second year of our festival. We were doing our first cruise. We were doing Red Rocks again. It was an arena tour. We were buying a tour bus. I mean, all these things. And I said, if there's a time to double down and bet on yourself, like the great comics have, Joe Rogan bet on himself. He did all of it himself. And I went, that's what you do. You just focus on you and you build the people around you to help. And when I did, and anyone who was like a legit someone who knew what they were doing, I just steal them and go, come work for me. I love what you do. You run my social media, you're amazing, come work for me. And then, especially like Netflix has been a great partner, but they were like, kind of like, market your special. And it did well. And so I think my initial idea was just work at the podcast, but then we started marketing the movie, we took over our premiere, we just started doing everything in-house. Everything was, I'd have an idea and I go, let's do it. And then we'd do it, and then it would succeed. And then other people started coming to me going, hey, can you help me? I had a call from a comedian this morning going, hey, can you help me? I need help marketing my tour, will you help me? And I guess ideally in a perfect world, we'd run a business that does that. I just help comics. Like if a comic, I'm like, yeah, I got time. Let's go get coffee and we'll talk.
But eventually it will turn into another line of business for you.
I'd love to. I mean, we did it with Shane Torres' special. We shot a special for him. The people in this house, my LeAnn produced the special. We got the same directors that do my specials. We took it out. It's all over the place right now. Cat Williams can find it on Tubi. And but yeah, everything started becoming in-house. And then I watched everyone else. Sebastian's all in-house. Tommy's all in-house. Rogan's all in-house. Everyone's all in-house. Tim Dillon's all in-house. Shane Gillis just moved to Austin to start his own production company to make his own shorts. He doesn't need Saturday Night Live anymore. And so I think we kind of followed that business model, or adjacently started creating that business model as other comics did it. And it's just been amazing. I mean, this house pays for itself. It pays for everyone that's an employee here. And by the way, if it was losing money, I'd still do it because I'm having so much fun.
The most difficult step in that process for you in bringing everything in-house was what?
Spending the money. I don't like spending money. Like I'm pretty cheap. I just was nervous when you start hiring 12 people, and then that would overwhelm me, and I get freaked out. I remember hearing, you know, we hired one person, it was a pretty hefty salary, and I remember being like, oh, what the this is what happened to MC Hammer. And then someone said, you know, she's just month to month. And I went, oh, huh, so if everything goes sideways, we can just fire everyone, right? But yeah, spending the money was the hardest part. and like redoing a kitchen to make it television friendly, you know, buying a house, all of that, buying the tour bus. That was like, I was like, oh. But then you look at all the money you spent on tour buses and you're like, I should have done this 5 years ago.
Why'd you make LeAnn CEO of your company?
She's smarter than I am. She knows more stuff. She knows where all our money is. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you how much money I make. I mean, for real.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I know what I grossed on tour last year, but when I read it, I went, are you serious? Like when I read it, I actually said to LeAnn, is this real? And so like when LeAnn buys a house,
and when she told you, what was your reaction?
I didn't believe her. I thought she was wrong. And then our business manager showed us a piece of paper with our net worth, and I exhaled for that. And then, by the way, that happened like 2 weeks ago.
Really?
I exhaled. I went, so like when she bought this house, she's like, I'm gonna buy a house to do podcasts out of. And I was like, baby, please don't. Please don't. I said, that's how you lose your money in this business, trying to be bigger than you are. She goes, you know, we make a lot of money from the podcast. We got 2 bears, we got yours. The cooking show is a very valuable product. She goes, I want to build a kitchen for the cooking show. I want to set up a room for you. I want your work to be away from our house. It was all in the same place. Like I like having younger comics on my podcast because I really think that's the future. And I know from my past successes that when you foster talented young comics, they don't forget it, and they're always your friend, and they're always generous to you, and even when they blow up way past you. Look at Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis is the biggest comic in the country right now. Andrew Schultz is the biggest. The biggest comics in the country are all younger than me right now. And it was weird having younger comics come to the house and be like, holy and they're like, you bought a house just to do a podcast in? But LeAnn bought this house. I love this house.
Yeah.
And I love it because when I come here, I know I'm working. I'm shooting promos, I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing the cooking show, I create. I love this house. But LeAnn's got that brain where she does the math and goes, we can afford it.
In what ways did Kevin Hart's company influence you?
Kevin Hart's a gangster. I love that dude. This sounds not sexy, but he was the brand. He was the guy, because I liked what he was doing. He was getting out and running every day with his team. And then all of a sudden he teams up with Nike and does his own line of clothes, where he did his own shoe, or he does. I love that Kevin Hart would find the and he was doing what Joe was doing, and Joe did it with his company on it, but he was doing it on even a bigger level and bringing all his people in-house who, because like, look, I say this all the time, we know where the good cocaine is. We got the hookup. I know the good cocaine, uncut, unstepped on, no fentanyl. It's other great comics, it's other social media managers, it's other producers, it's other cameramen. You know it. When you need a good cameraman, you know where to go. We do, we know that. So to go out of house and to watch Kevin do that all in-house, and then see, he did a documentary and you watched his team and you were like, but that's inspiring, and he believed in himself. That's the hardest part. The other sexy thing I thought about Kevin was he was ambitious, and that ambition is not something comics smile upon in this business. Other comics do not like an ambitious comic. Someone who says, and I had to come to terms with my ambition because I am ambitious, but I also kind of rope-a-dope the business into thinking I just drink and party and I'm not thinking things through. Well, look, when I get ready for a special, I am all hands on deck for 18 months about that special. I'm very ambitious. I will never say I want to be the greatest comic that ever lived, but I do want the respect of my peers, and I want fans to feel like I haven't lost it and I haven't stayed out of touch. And when you say that out loud, sometimes other comics will be like, oh, what the f are you doing? Like that, you think you're gonna start a production company? You know, being ambitious in this world right now, there's a lot of ambition. And it was scary, but Kevin, and by the way, his specials were awesome. His movies were amazing. I think Kevin's a real, I think he's a gangster, man.
I wanted to talk to you about COVID because your Netflix special comes out and you can't tour, which was like when you want to be.
Oh, it was really legit a perfect storm. I remember Ralphie May one time told me on my first special, Comfortably Dumb, he said, "Playa, you better hope for a snowstorm." I said, "What?" And he goes, "That's how you get numbers on television. Snowstorm doesn't knock out the power, but everyone stays home. They watch your special." And he was wrong. You should pray for a pandemic. My special came out March 17th. Stay-at-home orders were March 13th. So the entire country is forced to stay in their house and watch either Tiger King or the other thing on Netflix is my special Secret Time or Hey Big Boy. Hey Big Boy, I think it was. And it was crazy. I mean, I remember my Instagram mentions, like where you can, the people that are mentioning you in their stories was like, it looked like a straight line. Like I couldn't get through them. And everyone was hitting me up about my special. They're like, dude, the special's amazing. Like, thank you. And I was like, I got a tour. And I just, it's how my brain works. It's, it's like, let's burn it. Yeah. Come on, I'm smart enough, I can think of a workaround. And so March 19th, I called my managers and agents and I said, check on drive-in movie theaters. And they're like, what? I said, I know we can get like a stage and then they can put it up on the big screen. Like, see if the drive-in movie theaters are open. That way they can all stay in their cars, but they can come to my shows. And they're like, that's not a thing. I said, well, see if we can make it a thing. I remember running it by, I ran it by Tom. And Tom said, I'm not doing it. That's stupid. He was like, you're gonna be a guinea pig. And if it doesn't work, you're gonna look like an ass. And he's like, you got all this momentum, just let it sit. Just go on tour when they open things up. And I was like, no, man, like I've been on the back seat my entire career waiting for opportunities. I finally get an opportunity. I'm gonna create it. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make this happen. So my managers and agents said, how about we do 4 of them? See if you like them, do 4. And I remember my manager, Judy, said, you're so creative that even if you do it and it's bad, the way you represent it online, it'll look fun. Like you don't have to make it look bad. It'll be fun and you might like it. If you like it, we can book more. If you don't like it, we just don't have to do it. But it's interesting. I think it's fun and it's your idea. You're the one that set us out on this goose chase to get it for you. We got it for you. Do it. And so I did it. We did 4 nights. And the first night we were in a rock quarry in North Carolina and the cars were backed up for 5 miles. And that energy was so pretty. It was so, and then they all come in and it's an old movie theater. It's an old drive-in movie theater back to like the 40s. And it's all set in a rock quarry with a beautiful background. And the sun starts setting and people are out of their cars. They got couches. Everyone's socially distant or whatever, Everyone's they got smokers out and they're making meats and they're just like so happy to be outside of their house and connect. They've been in their houses for 3 months. And we did it and I had so much fun. I called my agent, Nick, that night, and I said, book out my summer. Book out until it gets cold, because I can't perform when it's too cold, because I'm shirtless. And we worked until November. I think we did like 70 shows, 30 cities. It was crazy. We went all over the country. I gotta say, it was probably one of the coolest tours I've ever done. We lived in a bus, me and 12 dudes. We packed the bus out. We stayed socially distant. We stayed in our bubble. No one got COVID. And we toured the country when it was vacant. I mean, had the greatest experience I've ever had. And then, it was the first time that I actually realized that my brain with my weird thoughts could work, that I could do things that were off the grid and people would appreciate. And I won a bunch of awards for it. And then I started listening to my own brain. I'd be like, I'm gonna do a dance video to release this. And I don't care. I'll get a marching band for $1,200. Have them come to my backyard and we'll do a promo video that way. And I really started going like, just follow your heart and do what you believe is right. And it was the coolest part. The coolest part was that like my peers, and I'll share names, but like Jim Gaffigan called me. He was like, hey man, I know you're doing this drive-in movie theater tour. I'd like to do it. Is it okay if I do it? Because I know it's your idea. And I went, yeah. I go, I didn't create it for me. I created it for us. And then Brian Regan called me. He's like, hey man, I know you're doing this drive-in movie theater. I'd like to do something. Do you mind if I? It was like the coolest thing to get respect from your peer, especially at that level. Mm-hmm. And it was, and then all of a sudden I was like, this is one of the coolest experiences, this summer touring, this outdoor touring. Called Nick and I was like, let's do more outdoor touring. Even when we go back inside, I want to do more outdoor. I want to do these baseball stadiums. And he was like, oh, I don't know if anyone's doing baseball stadiums. I go, set it up. And Nick's like, it. He said, what are you gonna call it? And I was like, Fully Loaded. I'm gonna bring my favorite comics on the road with me. And we did the first year of Fully Loaded. And it was, when we set, it's a cheat code, but we set record attendance at every baseball stadium we did because they can't see people on the infield. Yeah. But we like blew out beer records. I mean, had amazing shows and I was with all my best friends. This is before they were all as famous as they are now. We did Fully Loaded last year. We did even more. We did like 5 weekends, I think. And then you got guys like Dave Matthews, like leaving me a voicemail like going like, dude, it's so cool what you're doing. I left a bottle of whiskey for you at the thing, and like that means a lot to me. And then, you know, and like one of my good friends, Shane Gillis, was like, I can only do one date. And then he did the one date at Forest Hills at this tennis stadium, and he goes, I fucked up. I should have done the whole tour with you. I should never have listened to my agents. Can I come up next tomorrow? And we're like, what? And he's like, I'll pay for it. You don't have to pay me. I just want to do another one. And you're like, yeah. And so you do that, and then you do the cruise. And you know, once again, it's like following your stupid brain, has an idea, you do the cruise, and then you witness the energy around something like that you created, that you came up with the idea and said, I want to do this. You went to the comedians, you said, hey, I want to pay you solid. I want you to come on this cruise. I want to share my fans with you. And then it's like, look, all these people are so successful now. They really are. And I'm telling you, they did not need my help. They were going to be famous no matter what.
A comic close to you said, you go out of your way to pay people well. Why is that important to you?
I think, you know, the old paradigm, every comic was undervalued until they were valued. And it wasn't until you were valued that you felt appreciated, but there's so much time you felt underappreciated. I mean, I think the standard rate right now to this day is like $100 to feature, 50 to host. And I remember just going like, I remember my dad going, how do people afford to do this? You know, I've done a lot of things that are different than the norm. I signed a touring deal that, I mean, people could argue this point or not. It kind of changed the way people started touring. A lot of people told me not to do it. They said it's better to work with all the touring agents, better work with Live Nation, AEG. And I just thought, yeah, but no one ever gave a about me, but it sounds like this guy gives a about me. And I was like, that's a really solid deal. It changed the way that promoters had to sign deals with comedians. And that deal put me in a position where my money wasn't predicated on my door sales, meaning I could make other revenue streams from whatever it is inside the venue. And so it gave us a little leverage. And LeAnn said very wisely, she said, this festival is only successful if you do 11 of them. Like, that's the only way this is successful. But in order to do 11, you got to do 2. And if you want to do 2, we got to not make money on this first one. Don't make money, give it all to the comics. Make sure the comics say to the other comics, you got to do that. That's the only way it works with comedy, is like you need Big J. Okerson, you need Mark Norman, you need Shane Gillis, you need Stavros to say to other people, dude, you got to do Bert's tour. Nikki Glazer has to be at the cellar going, Fully Loaded's a blast, and Bert is solid. Like, he pays good, but more importantly, LeAnn's in charge of his business, and she gave us each like a $5,000 gift package with massagers and leg compression boots to travel with, and so LeAnn put money into that festival, make sure the comics were taken care of, because she knew the comics were the ones spreading the word. So yeah, we try to take care of the comics, and you know, even like we have a canceled date, and then this is the stress of it is. And I think this leads into my getting out of control. It's like, we were supposed to get rained out for 9 shows. I mean, you could do the math somehow, but all I know is the math in my head came out to $9 million in the hole. So the stress adds up. When you're supposed to get rained out for 9 shows, you realize you cannot not pay the comedians. You got to pay the comedians. They came there. They showed up. They did what you asked them to do. So we had one show that was a rain out, and we squared up with all the comedians. So we'd love to have you back if we do it. But I totally understand. And people were like, comics were like, for real? Okay. And then they all showed up and did it. We got them rain gear just as a little extra gift, sent them a bottle of tequila. But yeah, that's LeAnn. And I think that's just her witnessing how I have operated in this business and going, I know that if someone was to take care of my husband, he'd spread that word. So yeah, I've been very, 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 very lucky. You know, when you look at the Malcolm Gladwell-esques of being at the right place at the right time, think about my life. I mean, I'm the luckiest guy you'll ever meet. I don't study at all in college, at all. My last senior year, Rolling Stone magazine writes an article about me. This is before, remember, we don't realize this is a time when fame was precious. Not everyone got to be famous. I then come out, they're still in the development deal time. That's Hollywood's still in the development deal time, where they're paying sick money to comedians to do nothing, to not work with anyone. I get to be in that part. I get to then host shows. I then get my own show. And then I get the blessing of being of having to start all over and doing stand-up and hosting and featuring and getting around some really brilliant comics and getting good at stand-up, becoming competent at stand-up. I get to be ponied right behind Man vs. Food on Travel Channel, the biggest. These are all lucky things in my life. I'm right after him. I get his lead in, so I get to be successful. I then run that until it's done. And then a guy I love starts a podcast that happens to be the biggest podcast in the world, and I get to be there for the salad days, to watch him make it, to watch his brain operate, for him to figure out ad sales, for him to set up ad sales relationships that then benefit me when I start my podcast, and then my podcast starts going off at the same time social media shows up when all that goes away from me, and I'm lucky enough to be at the very front lines of social media and start a career and get a viral story. And let's not just forget the fact that I'm an okay storyteller, and I happened to rob a train with the Russian mafia once that I thought I was gonna get in trouble for. It goes viral, post it, a girl in my class sees it the day I post it and comments, "This story's 100% true, he robbed us." And then that goes viral. I mean, if you look at all the lucky things that have happened in my life, the lucky, crazy, right time, right place, born at the right month, I am by far the luckiest guy in the world. You know, you wanna know a crazy lucky story? Robbie Praw is coming back from Canada and he's at customs. And the guy says to him, "What were you doing here?" And he goes, "I was shooting a special for Netflix." And the guy goes, "You a comedian?" And he said, "No, I work at Netflix." And this border agent says, "Well, I'm not gonna let you into the country until you do a deal with the machine." Robbie Praw goes, "Who the f*** is that?" And he goes, "Bert Kreischer, you need to do a special with him. So until you decide to say yes to that, I'm not gonna let you in the country." And Robbie Praw goes, "I don't know who he is." He goes, "Well, you better find out who he is." Stamps it, and he goes, "Bert Kreischer, check him out." That's f***ing luck. And then the next week, I'm on a flight from DC to LA with Robbie Praw. And he sees me at the gate and he goes, "Hey, I'm Robbie." I said, "I'm Bert. Very nice to meet you." What the f***? I mean, you need that to happen. You gotta show up. You gotta show up. You gotta be prepared, and you gotta be ready for that luck.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, brother. That was awesome. Wait, hold on. Who's the guy? Who was just telling me? Who is the guy?
I forget.
Shut up, you f***ing liar. Who is it? Who is
I was sworn to secrecy.
You gotta tell me who.